My name is Elizabeth Smith Brownstein. I'm a retired television producer. We hear very much criticism in this country about our lack of language, sophistication, and ability. And there was a story not long ago about the fact that 63, presumably, Arabic-speaking men were had to leave the service because of their sexual orientation. Is that the lack of our language, sophistication, a severe detriment, or is it overrated in questioning?
I'm going to be the minority opinion on this one, but let me explain it. The thing I would say is if you gave me a choice and I had a limited amount of resources, would I choose to train all my interrogators in Arabic, or would I choose to train and recruit better interpreters? I would choose the interpreters. I had a team of 12 interrogators, some of whom had been through a year of Arabic training. They couldn't interrogate in Arabic. In Iraq, there's 14 dialects of Arabic. Interrogations is a very nuanced subject. I do have a friend, one interrogator, who is trained in Arabic, and it took him quite a bit of time in country before he could actually interrogate on by himself in Arabic. So some people do have the capability to do it. But I would choose the interpreter because the interpreter is a cultural encyclopedia, and that's an additional resource. There's so many times I could give you examples of where interpreters saved my butt because they realized some cultural nuance. And even, I'd been in the Middle East before. I understand the culture, but I didn't understand some very fine details that were very important where the interpreter was able to pick it out. In the example I gave in the story I told about the Assyrian, my interpreter probably knew that when we walked in the house and first started talking to him and just held his tongue until I discovered it. There was another point in time where I was interrogating a gentleman, and my interpreter stopped me and looked at a clock on the wall and said, "That guy's Shia. He can't be part of Al-Qaeda." And I said, "How do you know that from the clock on the wall?" He's like, "Oh, just the picture." So the interpreters bring something to the equation that's an additional asset. Now, given time and resources, would I train all our interrogators in the language? Yeah, that's if you're fluent and you can interrogate in it, that's an advantage because the detainees do respect the fact that you've learned their language. If I ask anybody in here, do you know who Francis Gabreski is? World War II ace. Jimmy Doolittle, Billy Mitchell. I could ask you famous names of pilots from World War II, and you would recognize them probably. But I could name off Sherwood Moran or Grant Hirabayashi or Tenai Stevens, famous interrogators from World War II, and you wouldn't know who they were. But these people, one of them, Sherwood Moran, wrote a guide for interrogations after he successfully interrogated numerous Japanese POWs. And he said that everybody should be a trained linguist because there's an innate ability once you understand the language to understand the culture. I don't think that's a requirement, but certainly it's a help. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Manan. I'm from Voice of America, Indonesian Service, and I've done a lot of translation for the ATAP, State Department program. My question is, the way that you describe the Tasman 88 is like they have already adopted all these new techniques, but I'm a bit skeptical about that. Isn't this one of their tools where they also retain all their old methods? And I think this has big implications, particularly since Indonesia is going into more depth into the democracy, because with Obama's visit coming up this next week, and then also there's already talk about resumption of military aid to the special forces. So can you explain to me, is the Tasman 88 really this unit that use these more friendlier methods and have set aside all tortures, or is it still 88% of their methods that they're using and that has led them to the capture of Nurdin Top? I'm not so sure. I'm a bit skeptic about this.
I feel like this is another loaded question, but I'll be a skeptic with you. Just as I would be skeptical of my own interrogation force and whether we've adopted good methods, because we have a checkered past now. and I think it's good to be skeptic. But I don't think that being a skeptic or admitting that some people use bad methods, that there's bad actors within an organization, that we shouldn't go on and praise when they act in a good manner. Because as I was taught very early on as an officer in the military, you don't fix a broken wheel by complaining about it. You fix it by coming up with a solution. And so, in my book, I made a conscious decision not to write about the times when I witnessed people bend or break the rules. And because I knew that if I did that, everybody would read my book to read about torture. And it'd be talked about, like an Abu Ghraib scandal. What I wanted people to focus on is how do we improve the methods? How do we do things right? What are the success stories? And that's why I wrote about Attachment 88. I'm aware that people have concerns that in other instances they haven't always used those techniques. I don't know. I can't tell you that I have any knowledge of them doing that or not doing that. What I can say is I wanted to highlight when they did something well. And if we put the positive incentive on the effectiveness of doing things the right way, I'm convinced that it will help things change. Men like Tito Carnarvon, who came up with this method and who are explaining it and helping us to advance the methods, really are leaders. And I think we have to concentrate on their positive attributions to the field of interrogations to promote good behavior. Yeah.
While she's making her way there, you talk in the article a bit about Afghanistan, and that Afghanistan is going to be entirely different in terms of interrogations and the kinds of enemies we're facing there. That's clearly the designated next battlefield. So why is it that you think it's so different?
Yeah, I haven't been in Afghanistan, so I have to kind of qualify that. I'm going off other people's expertise, which is just that there's more diversity in the reasons why people join the Taliban or Al-Qaeda than in Iraq. And that diversity can vary by valley quite significantly. And so the incentives you apply have to be much more varied in whereas in Iraq, the Sunni awakening, the Anbar awakening, was facilitated by reaching out to several very prominent Sunni sheikhs. That might not be as easy in Afghanistan, wherein you would have to reach out to a significant larger number of players to make the same type of advances. And so that's why I think when we're talking about applying incentives in the Indonesian model, it's not a one-size-fits-all. But I can tell you that there is something universal about interrogations, and that is people have motivations for why they join a group. And you have to understand those motivations and then apply the proper incentives if you're going to get them to change behaviors. And that is universal.